Choosing Life by ginnyrules27, Chapter 67. Feels like the end of an era. Haddie smiled softly as he rolled over. The sight of his pregnant wife, something that never failed to fill him with pure joy. Months had passed since the day they'd found out they were going to be parents, and Haddie wouldn't have traded it for the world. Okay, maybe that was a bit of a lie. If only because of how rough the pregnancy had been on Alexandria. What? He didn't want his wife to be in pain. Sue him. Alexandria said, her eyes opening to meet his. Please tell me you slept and didn't stay up all night staring at me. You're getting closer to your due date. What if you went into labor while you were sleeping? Haddie, I can guarantee you that if that happened, either the water breaking or the contractions would have woken me up, Alexandria said, sitting up slightly. And before you freak out, I'm just getting comfortable. Lying straight on my back is close to impossible nowadays. You need me to get you anything? Haddie asked. Another pillow? A blanket? A husband less likely to freaking out over every little thing? Alexandria teased, before giving Haddie a small smile. I'm fine. Just sit with me? Unless you need to go over to your dad's. He's going over to the underworld today, though he asked if I could come since the last time Rhea snuck off. Haddie said, but I think we've got another hour or two before I have to leave. Alexandria smiled as Haddie scooted closer to her, his head lying on the pillow he had placed behind her back before she noticed. Sneaky Haddie, Alexandria thought with a small smile. Then again, I'm guessing the sneakiness gained from growing up on the Isle wouldn't necessarily go away. Though you were on the Isle less than Mal and the others were. Is your dad going to rant again? Alexandria asked, breaking the silence. No, at least not verbally, Haddie said with a small sigh. He might sulk, but if he really gets in the mood to rant, he tries to keep it between him and Mum on the mental link. Besides, nothing will beat the rant he went on when we told him you were pregnant. Alexandria nodded. Yeah, that had been a memorable rant. You're what? Pregnant, Haddie said as Hades stared at them in shock. Alex and I are going to have a baby. No. I must have some brimstone stuck in my ear or something because you are too young. Dad, I'm happily married. If I'm not too young to be married, how am I too young to have a child? Haddie said, I still say you're too young to be married. Hades insisted. Dad! Haddie sighed. What? You are! Dad, I'm a grown adult according to the mortals, Haddie said, shaking his head. I wasn't too young for Kit to give me approval to propose to Alex. And I still maintain it was because you didn't want to risk angering two gods by telling you no. Uh-huh. So is that why you gave Ben permission to marry Mal before he was even 18? Haddie asked, the deadpan tone of his voice audible to everyone. That was different! Alexandria snorted in amusement, before turning to Mal, who was watching the scene unfold with unbridled joy. So, any tips for dealing with magical toddlers? I have a feeling I'm more than likely going to have one since their magic is seeping out of me already. Yeah, Haddie told me about your new ability. Mal nodded. Interesting, though. It never happened while I was pregnant with the twins, or with Bianca. Maybe because you had magic of your own? Alexandria suggested. That could be it, Mal nodded. Still, though, it's odd. But then again, stranger things have happened in our family. Zeus birthing Athena from his head, for instance. Alexandria giggled slightly, before pausing. Is it normal to be nervous? Absolutely, Mal said, gently taking her sister-in-law's hand and giving it a small smile. I was certainly nervous before the kids were born. And you know Harry practically placed a rut into the floor every time Uma found out she was pregnant. He still swears they're done at 3 kids, though we'll see what he says after this one's born. Alexandria smiled slightly at that. Hattie had told her once, during one of their date nights that never failed to turn into a conversation about one of their strange friends, that he theorized the reason Harry was determined to stop at 3 kids was because his sister CJ had been the third-born child, and that was when the Hook kids lost their mother. Alexandria thought it was kind of sweet, the way Harry wanted to make sure nothing happened to Uma any way he could. A sudden, tight feeling broke Alexandria from her thoughts, and she immediately grabbed Hattie's hand and squeezed it. Alex? Hattie asked, but Alexandria just shook her head. Thankfully, the feeling went away after a minute, and Alexandria looked over at her very confused and concerned husband. It's time. That was all Hattie needed to hear before he jumped out of the bed and started throwing things into a bag. Alexandria shook her head and got out of bed herself, walking over to the closet. Alex? If my water breaks, I'm not going to be in the bed when it happens, she said, pulling out her go bag. Both Kitty and Lucy had recommended she pack one about 2 weeks before her due date, since going into labour would be hectic. They also gave her tips on what labour might feel like before her water broke, so that she could be prepared. But you don't know when that's going to happen, Hardy said. True, but I hate this carpet, so if it happens when I'm standing here, then I have an excuse to replace it, Hardy said. Alexandria said, and Hardy chuckled, his panicked energy calming at the joke. Alexandria smiled before groaning slightly as the tight feeling returned, this time with a little more intense than the first one. Without saying a word, Hattie rushed over to her and took her hand. She smiled at him before squeezing his hand as the feeling overtook her. How did my sisters do this 3 times? Alexandria groaned. The same way you're going to be able to do it now, Hattie said. You charming women are made of strong stuff after all. Alexandria gave him a small smile before squeezing his hand once more. They're getting closer together. She groaned. I'm pretty sure that means we need to get you to a hospital before our babies decide they need to be born here at home tonight, Hattie said before biting his lip. I don't know if teleporting you while you're in active labour would harm the babies, though. Dad didn't even want to teleport Mum when she was in labour with Rhea. Hattie, I love you, but right now I don't care if Apollo flies me to the hospital on his chariot. Just so long as it gets me to the hospital and hooked up to that amazing epidural my sisters told me about. Alexandria groaned again. Roger that. Hattie nodded. Wait, Hattie, don't tell me you're actually going to call Apollo to take us to the hospital. Well, I mean, it would make sense since he's connected to medicine through his role as a healer, but it's at 10 at night, so his chariot wouldn't be available for us. So, who are you calling? Dad. Please tell me Lord Hades is driving and not flying the chariot he used when he freed the Titans from their underwater prison to take over Mount Olympus. Hey, you said you didn't care if you flew to the hospital, Hattie teased as Hades landed in the chariot. Hey, Dad, Mum's sitting behind with Rhea. You know how your mother feels about heights. She's driving to the hospital to meet us there, Hades says as Hattie carefully helped Alexandria into the chariot, making sure to stand directly behind her, since the chariot had no back, and Hattie thought it would be a bad idea to not protect his actively in labour wife from falling out of the chariot, especially when it was in the air. Call him crazy for thinking that was a bad idea. The ride to the hospital was surprisingly smooth, though Hattie did have to cover Alexandria's mouth before she asked Hades if the chariot could do a loop-de-loop, mainly because Hattie wasn't 100% certain his father wouldn't grant the request. Sure, she's the mother of my children, giving Dad new grandchildren to spoil without needing the urge to enter into a spoiling war, since he doesn't hate Kit with a fiery, if not deserved passion, so it would make sense why you'd think why Dad would say no, Hattie thought as the chariot landed outside the hospital. However, Dad also has his moments where he went, oh yeah, how did Mal put it? Crazy go nuts. He bit back a snort as the nurses helped Alexandria into a wheelchair and rushed her into the delivery room. Dad, can you call Kit and Ella and tell them they know Alex is in labour? Hattie asked as he called them. If I can't get Kit or Ella, since I think mortals have to sleep, I can call one of their many offspring as an acceptable substitution. If I can't get Kit or Ella, since I think mortals have to sleep, can I call one of their many offspring as an acceptable substitution? You're the best, Dad! Hattie called and chuckled as the hospital doors cut off whatever that Hades was going to respond with. Quickly catching up to the hospital staff, Hattie shook his head as he could hear his wife. What do you mean I can't have an epidural? The contractions are too close together, and you're too dilated, the nurses explained. I'm sorry, Your Highness, but it looks like you're going to have to push soon. But we only left 15 minutes ago! Alexandria exclaimed as Hattie rushed over to his wife's side and took her hand. How could labour have progressed that quickly? Oh, it's quite normal for labour to progress quickly, the nurse explained. Plus, pregnancy is different for everyone. Some have long labours, some have short. And apparently we fall under the short category. Hattie commented. Hattie, babe, I love you, but this is in no way a we situation. Roger that. Alexandria shook her head as the nurses and doctors continued to monitor her progress, along with the status of the twins. Hattie still couldn't believe they were having twins. He was in shock from when Alexandria went for the ultrasound to get the gender. Which, yes, he shouldn't be that shocked about it, considering the fact that Alexandria had older twin sisters, and Mal had twins her first pregnancy, and the fact that there was a boatload of twins on his dad's side of the family, thanks in part to Zeus. But Hattie was still shocked. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and check how we're progressing, the doctor said, and Hattie quickly took Alexandria's hand and gave her a small smile. Hattie, just letting you know that I might say some things while I'm pushing that... Alex, I love you, and I want you to know that, A, there's nothing you could say that would make me stop loving you, and B, I was in the room when Mum gave birth to Raya. I know what women will sometimes say while in labour. Not to mention Harry and Jace already sat me down and gave me the full rundown of possibilities. Apparently, the most important thing to do is if you tell them to stop talking, I stop talking. Alexandria couldn't help the small chuckle that escaped her lips before squeezing Hattie's hand as another contraction hit. Okay, looks like we're in luck, and you can start to push at the next contraction, the doctor said. Looking up at Alexandria, seems your baby is being nice to you. Well, there's two of them, so them being nice will make this easier, Alexandria joked, and Hattie chuckled. It honestly didn't seem like it had been more than a minute before the next contraction hit, and Alexandria was pushing. Hattie gently rubbed her shoulder and tried to ignore the pressure on his hand. Tried being the operative word. But if it helped Alexandria, then Hattie would gently go through a squeezed hand. One more push, and there we go. You have a healthy baby boy, Your Highness, the doctor said as the nurse took their son from the doctor to clean him off and wrap him up. And it looks as though there's another baby coming. You should feel another contraction soon. Would you like to hold your son? The nurse asked Hattie. He looked at Alexandria to see if she still needed his hand. Go on, Alexandria said softly. Hattie smiled and gently took his son from the nurse. Wisps of blonde hair could be seen coming from the boy's head, but Hattie had to smile when it looked like the tips of the hair had a bluish tint to them. One last push, Your Highness, and you have a healthy baby girl, the doctor said about 5 minutes later, and both Hattie and Alexandria smiled as the nurse cleaned off and wrapped up their daughter before placing her in Alexandria's arms. It's a good thing we planned their names months ago, because otherwise I'd have no idea what to name them, Alexandria said with a chuckle. Neither would I. And I don't have the excuse of going through childbirth, Hattie chuckled. Welcome to the world, Hannah Persephone Charming, and Alexander Keros Charming. He's not going by Alex as a nickname, though, Alexandria chuckled. As you wish. Hattie smiled and kissed the top of her head. They could go out to get their parents from the lobby in a moment. Right now, the only thing Hattie wanted was to spend time with his wife and children. They were probably the most awaited children in the world. Well, other than Harriet and Sammy's son Sebastian, who had been born a few weeks prior. But other than that, the most awaited. You know you're going to have to let someone else hold him soon, Alexandria said, chuckling softly as Hattie continued to hold their son. Mine, Hattie joked, holding their son close to him, and Alexandria leaned up and kissed Hattie's cheek. This was absolutely perfect. No notes. Well, she didn't exactly advise going through labour without an epidural, but other than that, no notes. End of chapter. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed this one. God, I feel like a proud big sister. We were there when Hattie was born, and now we're here when he's had his twins. Oh, that made me happy. I like those names as well. Very cute names for the kids. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And, wow. Ginny, last chapter you've posted in a while. I'm not trying to pressure you. I know how bad burnout is. I was burnt out for 9 months when I was ill. So I completely get it. But this feels like the end of an era. I've been recording you for years. It's going to take me a while to find another story to do. Anyway, you all know the drill. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell to get notified for whenever I upload a new video. Make sure to check me out on Ko-fi and Patreon as well. And remember to have a good day, night, or whatever time zone you're in. Bye, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I'll see you in another video. Take care.